Rap Lab, the Rap Lab. Let's go. The Rap Lab, the Rap Lab, the Rap Lab. Come see what we cooking up at. The Rap Lab, the Rap Lab, the Rap Lab. Bar for bar, we hooking up with TOQG, Rev Barber MC, ALFRE to the D on that MIC, A to Z. We be the flyers. Hip hop sound broke down to a science. It's the Rap Lab, the Rap Lab, the Rap Lab. Come see what we cooking up at. The Rap Lab, the Rap Lab, the Rap Lab, the Rap Lab.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Monday, so you know what that means. All new episode of the Rap Lab podcast. It's your main man, the Candy Man, the ALFRE to the D.
And it's the good doctor himself, the one and only True G. Just call me the QG. If you need your hip hop fix, come see me.
And folks, we just want to shout out our guy Rev. He's not here this week, but he'll be back next week.
Shout out to Rev.
And without further ado, because you know how we do, it's time for the This Week in Hip Hop News. And here's our news correspondent, Bucky Majors.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Bucky Majors, the news correspondent of the Rap Lab, and it's all good. Today's headlines. Swizz Beatz and Timbaland have a lawsuit against Triller. So you know what that means. This is Thriller. Thriller night. And no one's going to save you from the beast about to strike. Boosie has a situation involving the police. So I only have one thing to say about that. Fuck the police, coming straight from the underground. A young nigga that is bad because he's brown. The Game released a 10-minute diss on Eminem. For those of you out there who are hip-hop fans know that he released a diss many, many years before, and it went like this. Dear Slim, I wrote you, but you still ain't calling. I left my cell phone, pager, and my number at the bottom. And last but not least, Irv Gotti and his many situations. I just have one thing to say to Irv. G-Unit. And now more from the Rap Lab podcast. This is Bucky Majors. Back to you.
Well, thank you, Bucky. So the first news topic we're going to cover on the episode this week, as Bucky just stated, Irv Gotti doing a lot of shit, man. He aired out Ashanti on Drink Champs. The fans and some of his friends were noticeably upset, calling him out, airing him out. And apparently he's got problems with Ja Rule and Fat Joe. And this is all amid the Murder Inc. docuseries on BET airing all at the same time. You think this is all for publicity, or you think like Irv has just lost his mind?
I think it's a little bit of both. He's been promoting his series Tales, which is a show that he created where he takes hip-hop songs and hip-hop albums and turns them into stories. And then you have the BET docu-series of Murder Inc., and then, you know, you had his deal that he made where he sold the rights and the masters of the Murder Inc. recordings for millions of dollars. So I think all of this is just to help Irv get back out there and get some shine on him. But the way he went about it with Ashanti was just so sad, so negative. It's with him saying that they were in a relationship many years back. She won't admit it. When they do a Murder Inc. reunion, anything, she does not want to be involved in it, especially with the docuseries. She's not in it. And he was asked, you know, would you ever forgive Ashanti, you know, for everything that went on? And he said a news article in Page 6, he says, F no. He says he's never forgiven her. And this whole thing goes back to the FBI investigation. You remember when the FBI was going against Murder Inc.?
Yeah, that was involving Supreme, wasn't it?
It was involving Kenneth Supreme McGriff. And what we do know is the feds tried to pull the squeeze on Irv to get him to say anything about McGriff, and he refused. So with all that going on and the Murder Inc. offices being raided, it was too much. And it was a lot. Ashanti got out of there. And Irv wants to take credit for Ashanti's success. Sure, as an executive producer, you help your artist. But at the same time, on the Drink Champs interview, he said that she was a studio rat. She was in the studio every day. She learned, she grinded, and she earned the records that she's been on. And this is what he said. He said she was ready to get the F off Murder Inc. label, and she was ready to abandon me, the person who made her. And yes, I could say I made her. How do you know I can say that firmly? The minute I stopped making her records, she has not made a hit since. I'm like, Irv, that is just so nasty, man. What do you think about that, Candy Man?
So I'll tell you like this. I personally don't like Irv Gotti. All right. However, that last comment that he made about Ashanti, I mean, that's not fucked up if it's a fact. And that is a fact. What hit record has she had in the last 20 years?
Yeah, it makes sense. Her record, her music hasn't gone the way it's supposed to after the label, but all that other extra stuff, the way he talks, he doesn't watch his mouth. This is the same reason why he got in hot water over Jennifer Lopez. That's why Jennifer Lopez wants nothing to do with them anymore. And Ja Rule is in the middle. He still does shows with Ashanti, and he stated he didn't like what Irv was saying about her right then and there. But at the same time, what could he do to stop it? That's his man's. This is how Irv is. And then Fat Joe went on his Instagram and called out Irv for his comments about Ashanti because he's another one who's a friend of Ashanti. He's done records with Ashanti. So Irv was mad. He said Fat Joe is not my friend anymore. And then Fat Joe was like, I am not your friend. I'm your brother. And, I'm talking to you as a family would. Irv's biggest problem is his mouth, man. He just says things out of whack, doesn't think until later on. And he even mentioned when Ashanti got with Nelly. He found out when he was on the couch with his wife watching the basketball game. I'm like, dude, like, really? So I don't know if this situation will ever be settled between Ashanti and Irv. Ashanti is doing the right thing. She's keeping her mouth quiet. She's not focused on that. Irv did the same thing about Lloyd. You remember the singer Lloyd?
Oh, how could I forget immediately?
Oh yeah, and he said, if I ever see Lloyd, I hope he gets hit by a car. He said that.
But, Irv Gotti, man, that man got too much bad blood in his body.
Amen, bro. He does.
He comes off very bitter, bro.
He does. And again, I don't think Irv gets the credit he deserves as far as the success of DMX, with Ja Rule, with the Murder Inc. label, with managing Jay-Z. Irv has done a lot, especially during that time when Def Jam was in the hole. He helped them. He created a lot. Irv is a genius. It's just that.
But back to the comment of him finding out that Ashanti was with Nelly, like, my nigga, how you mad? Because how do you even sound? I was on the couch with my wife when I found out my girl left me. Like, what?
Yeah, and this is 20 years ago. This is something 20 years ago, and he's bringing it out on Drink Champs, and he's loud, and he's going off and on, off and on. Like, dude, you gotta let that go, man.
Big bro, you know me. And normally I usually entertain and applaud such antics, but not in this instance.
It's nasty work. And Ja Rule is dead caught in the middle. He says he wants no issues. Fat Joe called Irv a sucker for that. So he needs somebody to check him, man, to check his temperature and tell him, yo, Irv, you gotta chill. She's doing her, you doing you.
What's up with this nigga Fat Joe always wanting to play peacemaker when it comes to these Murder Inc. niggas?
I'm glad you brought that up because he's the same guy that tried to squash the beef between 50 Cent and Irv Gotti.
Yeah, and Irv got him out.
Irv cussed him out. Irv was not going to let that happen. He said, no way. Who the hell do you think you are trying to squash that situation? All because I guess Joe and 50 solved their thing. But this is not a rap beef. This is personal beef. That beef will never be squashed, never be settled.
Nope, never. It went to the streets.
That's right. When you get the streets involved, no rules.
Well, speaking of the streets, our next topic this week in the news comes about somebody who's from the streets who actually was on death row. Not death row the label, but, spent some time on death row on a capital murder charge and got off. Talking about my main man Boosie, and shout out to Vlad TV because Boosie be all over Vlad lately. But
Word.
Yo, before we get into it, you ever realize Vlad be asking Boosie about shit that don't have nothing to do with Boosie?
I never understood that with Vlad. Like, and he does this with a lot of guests. Like, he'll bring up certain things that they weren't there for, that they weren't a part of, and
About
he'll
people
ask
they
them.
don't know.
Yeah, and it's like, what's up with these questions? And you're right. You could always find Boosie on there. You could find Boosie on there. Who's the other guy?
Bob
T.K.
James,
Kirkland, Bob James,
Michael
somebody
J.
somebody from the Outlaws. Like, yo, it's like a running theme over there for Vlad TV.
It's like Vlad TV got a recurring cast now.
Yeah, Lord Jamar. Like, they practically live on that couch, man.
But Boosie recently got pulled over by the police in Georgia. They claimed that they could not see his license plate visibly, and they stopped him for that and ended up searching his whole car. They thought he was a drug dealer initially because he had $20,000 in cash in the console. They messed around with his diabetes medication. For those of you who don't know, Boosie is a type 1 diabetic who happens to be insulin dependent. Um, they handled his diabetes medication with no gloves on. And they just went through the car, searched everything, and then eventually let him go. Oh, and they handcuffed him on the side of the highway. Matter of fact, they weren't even on the side of the highway. I sent you the body cam video this
Yes, I
weekend.
did. Yes, I did. I
I don't
saw it.
get Okay, so you saw it, bro. They stopped these motherfuckers in the middle lane. Not even in the middle lane, bro. Like on the yellow line of the highway.
I don't understand that part at all. And for those of you out there who have ever seen a situation involving pullovers, you see they always have you pull over to the side and you whatever, whatever. But this was different. How you have him stop right there on the yellow line in the middle of the damn road? That right there does not make any sense to me. And he said it. He was very, very, very upset. He said he felt he was harassed. He says, I gotta go to y'all superiors and file charges. It's like an everyday thing, for him. He said he did 6 years on his back. He said that, and then he was like, he was heated. He's like, I'll spit on every nurse in that bitch. He's like, I'm gonna make you charge me. I'm gonna show you how I get down when I get locked up. And the officers can't. It went viral. Everybody could see it. If you haven't watched it, it went viral. And oh man, it was just disgusting. You know what I'm saying? And he was like, he said it. I'm doing right. I ain't no trouble. I don't mess with anybody. I don't beef with anybody out here. And he said that the most police in Georgia respect him. And still he's being sought out after that. He's like, and he made it clear. I am not going down for nothing. I ain't do nothing wrong, so I ain't going down for nothing.
And I know you heard he even said, "I'm ready to go to jail today."
He said it. He was fired up, man. He was heated. He let it be known, and people need to understand something, because on this show we've talked about many situations involving the police, and I've seen some comments where, like, well, if you don't resist arrest, oh well, if you follow the officer's orders, you'll be fine. That's not
That
necessarily true.
that's bullshit, bro. Because George Floyd followed the officer's orders and he ended up dead.
That's right. And when the cops come at you and they put their hands on you, they throw you to the ground, they just grab you. You know what I mean? Like when they approach you, especially when somebody's saying, "Hey, look, I got my license here, I got my registration here. Why are you touching me? I'll do what you say. Don't touch me." But then they just want to grab you and force their way on you. Not all, some. And when you look at the majority of the videos, that's exactly what you see. And isn't this body cam footage when it was
Yes,
originally
it's
orchestrated?
body it's body
What?
cam footage from the officer's body cam. Yes.
Right, right. But wasn't the original intention was for a way to prevent this sort of thing from happening? That way they could use that video as evidence and tell the police officers, hey, what you're doing is not justice. What you're doing is not the law. Wasn't that the original intention of the body
Yeah,
cam?
the original intent of the body cam was to provide footage for training purposes of what to not do if something goes wrong, or what
Correct.
to do in certain situations. And then the other purpose is, well, if a civilian has a claim against the police department, they put the footage out and release it publicly, saying, "Hey, this is what happened. We didn't do nothing wrong."
Yeah,
But as you see, some cops don't care. I.e., that piece of shit Derek Chauvin, because they all had body cams on and still executed George Floyd. So some of them
that's
don't.
right. Yeah, I agree with you.
I have two issues with this situation, right? And this is just from watching the body cam. Number one, they pulled Boosie over because, and mind you, Boosie wasn't even the driver. The young man, we don't know who the young man, we can't publicly identify him because he's not a celebrity. He's just a regular guy, one of Boosie's entourage or whatever. Right. But they pulled him over and Boosie was in the passenger seat. They claimed that they pulled him over because his license plate was not visible. But the entire time, like every time they showed the body cam footage of the cop that was standing with Boosie at the squad car, if you hit stop on the video, bro, because obviously Boosie's truck is in the background, you can fucking read the letters on his fucking license plate.
You can.
So the reason they stopped him, if that's the reason, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
And then number two, I have an issue with, because obviously the video's on YouTube. The people that uploaded this video, they didn't vote. You saw what the title of the video is. Boosie threatens to spit on officer during traffic stop. Like, really?
Yeah,
really?
All nonsense.
Like, instead you say, oh, rapper Boosie involved in traffic stop or involved in altercation. No, you have to say, oh, threatens to, like, come on, like, to the casual person that don't know Boosie, all they're gonna see is a black man acting erratically, or belligerently in police presence. But he had a reason to be upset because you heard him say in the video, "This is the 7th time in 2 weeks that y'all stopped me."
Peep this, bro. Peep this. We actually have the name of the driver and we have the age of him.
Oh, of the driver that was in Boosie's car.
Yeah, his name is Deshaun Lawrence. He's 19 years old. And he claimed ownership of the marijuana that was found.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, to play devil's advocate, marijuana is illegal in the state of Georgia. You cannot, it's not like up here in New York. You cannot legally possess and smoke marijuana in Georgia. But no. At the same time, that's not what they pulled him over for.
Right, exactly. And one of the officers was saying that the car's temporary license plate, which was allegedly obstructed and couldn't be checked, was the main reason for the stop.
And he just bought that truck too.
Mm-hmm. Ain't that something? A Cadillac SUV.
Bro, he had all the paperwork for it.
Yeah.
And I've never heard of that because technically marijuana is illegal in Georgia. But I don't know if you realize at the end of the video they gave them the weed back and just wrote them a summons.
Yeah, that's the funny part that got me. How do you pull them over for it? You pull them over, you say you smell it, you take it out, and then you just give it back to them.
So if you give it back to them, why even write them the ticket?
Why? If you're just going to do that, why?
And the last thing that I want to touch on, did you watch the video to the very end?
I watched it all the way.
Did you realize until Boosie's business manager got there, they didn't let them go?
Nope. They kept them right there. And I don't understand why does it take that for you to realize that this person or these people are legitimate. You remember in Straight Outta Compton when that happened in the movie where they had them on the ground and then Jerry Heller came out and said these guys aren't gangsters, they're artists and he's their manager, and they still didn't believe it. He's like, these guys look like gangbangers.
I remember.
Yeah. And he was telling them, get up off the ground. They forced them back on the ground and everything like that, even though the manager is right then and there. So it's like they have this assumption in their mind just by looking at somebody that this person is a criminal. And he went on to say, Boosie, and I quote, if I was a white college player, you wouldn't target my vehicle. If I played soccer or baseball, you wouldn't F with my vehicle. You would stop them for an autograph.
He got a point.
Sad. Very, very sad. Do you think Boosie should follow up with his notion to press charges?
Well, from what I read, he's suing the police department. So
okay.
Yeah, as he should, because how does it stop? And again, you saw the video. They rummaged through the entire car. They checked in between seats. They checked the console, the glove box, even the floor mats. No, they're wrong for that. And then
sure.
again, if technically, if they're smoking weed in the car, they broke the law. and you could tell they're full of shit because they gave them the weed back, wrote them a ticket, and sent them on their way. Correct me if I'm wrong, but when they're about to search you, aren't they supposed to ask you if you consent to a search unless they have a warrant?
They're supposed to do that. There is
And
such thing. There is such things as illegal searches. There is such a thing.
They never asked Boosie, does he consent to a search? And then you heard like when they were going, like you heard the cops talking amongst themselves at one point, and they commented on the amount of money they found in the car.
I don't know too much about this, but I need the listeners out there to confirm this with us via comments or email. Are you familiar with the probable cause law?
Bits and pieces.
Right, because it's like if they smelled the marijuana, then that already makes it null and void to provide a warrant and say, well, we would like to search the car. That's like if we smell it, then we have a right to search because it's in there.
Well, I guess so, but I mean, still, like the way they treated him wasn't right, bro.
It was not right at all.
Bro, they didn't have to handle his diabetes medication, bro. And they
No, they did not.
knew what it was because the cop went to the other cop. Oh, this is diabetes stuff, isn't it? Like you knew what the fuck it was.
You knew already.
And then for those of you who don't know, when people who are insulin dependent, they have to inject themselves with a needle. So this guy's touching all of his medication with bare hands, contaminating what he's got to put in his body. Like that's wrong, bro.
Sad. Very, 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 very sad.
And you heard when Boosie said, because the cop was standing in front of him. Once Boosie said, "Oh, I gotta press charges with y'all superiors," they walked away from him.
Right, because you're not supposed to say that. Oh well, you think you're just gonna do that? No, I want your badge number. I want your superior officer. I have a right to do that.
And technically, if you're getting arrested, you're getting stopped, and you ask the officer for a superior, the superior is supposed to be called.
The superior is supposed to be called.
But they didn't call their superior because,
no, sir.
From my knowledge of police officers, there's supposed to be a field supervisor.
Correct.
That roams around outside.
Correct. They're supposed to be roaming around, policing the police, and seeing if what they're doing is the right thing. There is supposed to be somebody. There is supposed to be a superior officer out there checking and seeing that these cops are doing their job. And I think also what they need to do is to get somebody to go to these neighborhoods and ask the people, hey, what do you think needs to be done? How do you feel about police? How do you feel about the cops and their methods? And what do you think needs to be done? And how do you think things need to be handled? I think that, and we discussed it on the show in the archive of episodes with the Say My Name, or Say Their Name, excuse me, because it was more than one, and rest in peace to all of them. It's about the procedures, how they're trained. I think some adjustments need to be made because there's no reason why, and we discussed it with Styles P as well, when he came face to face with the cops over how they handled that woman. You know, you got the knee in the back, you got the knee in the neck, like come on, is all that really necessary? You got the person down on the ground.
And you know, it just makes me wonder if these cops didn't have a body cam on, would Boosie even be alive?
Excellent question.
Changes got to be made. But speaking of changes, Timbaland and Swizz Beatz suing Triller over verzuz.
Oh boy.
Verzuz, which of course was the popular entertainment option for music, primarily hip hop and R&B through the pandemic. I mean, and we've seen verzuz has declined since the world has started to get back to normal. But what do you make of Timbo and Swizzy suing Triller? And QG, can you tell the people why Triller's getting sued in the first place?
Certainly. What we have here is a $28 million lawsuit from Swizz Beatz and Timbaland. And they are accusing Triller of missing out on payments. According to the suit, which was filed in the Los Angeles Superior Court, Triller has failed to properly compensate Swizz and Timbo from the terms of the agreement upon the platform's acquisition of verzuz, because they bought verzuz. Triller bought verzuz. And in addition to the $28 million, Timbo and Swizz are seeking 95 grand as interest, as well as attorney fees and other costs. It says that Triller guaranteed Swizz and Timbo the payment and performance of Triller's hold and obligations under the agreement. And they agreed to it, but they failed. They failed to give them payments for the contract. So it's cut and dry. It's cut and dry. They made a deal and they haven't lived up to their deal. And according to the correspondence of Triller, they say, we hope it's nothing more than a misunderstanding driven by lawyers. We do not wish to air out dirty laundry, but we have paid Swizz and Tim millions in cash and in stock. They acknowledged the success of Verzuz, which is very successful. And they said they've experienced while working with the company and its desire to continue the business. And they said it, it helped Triller. It helped that platform. And, it took Verzuz to another level. So I don't know what's going to happen here. But if you owe them money, pay them money. That's what I think. And to add on to that, we could look at the numbers. According to the documents that we've discovered on this show, they paid them $18 million, Swizz and Timbo, by March 17th, with $1 million due each month for the 10 months, which equals the $28 million. That's where it's at. So the numbers, I guess something is off with those numbers, bro.
You remember what Q-Tip said, right?
You mean about rule number 4080?
Oh yeah. You want to tell the people?
I could tell them. It's about record companies being shady.
Like, my thing is, Triller made money, bro. They made lots of money.
Yes, they did. Plenty of money.
And on top of that, Triller does more than just verses.
Yeah. Sporting events, boxing.
Triller was the promoter of the fucking Mike Tyson Roy Jones fight.
Yes, that's correct. They were. And a lot of people bought that too.
And not only that, but do you realize that, because the way to watch verses was on Instagram Live, but they always used to tell you, and I don't know if you remember this, every verses they would tell you, oh, if you want a full screen HD experience, order it on pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm. And people did it too on their big screen TVs.
I'm pretty sure that people ordered the Locks versus Dipset on pay-per-view, bro.
Oh, for sure. Till this day, that one set the standard for the verses. It's yet to be matched yet.
Bro, they have money, bro. They have the money. Why don't they just don't pay them?
They got it. Just pay them the money. If you owe these guys money, pay them the money. They're required to pay. They're actually required to pay that money. And can you imagine that? $1 million a month?
They never have to promote another verses ever again.
Nah, they could just chill. And look at all the verses that have come and gone. It reached out to many genres, all different sorts of artists, all different sorts of fans and platforms, and people have tuned in. Do you think we're ever going to see another verses again, or is it done?
I think verses is dead now.
I agree with you. And to throw into that,
aren't there artists out there that said that they would battle each other off of verses?
Diddy and Jermaine Dupri, who are in support of Timbo and Swizz, they said, "Yo, we don't need Triller. Let's do it our own way, and we could have that battle that the people want to see. We don't need Triller." So they're in support of those guys. They're following them with the lawsuit. So Puff and JD agreed to do it.
I think they should pay the money, bro. You know what it is, and listeners out there, forgive me if this sounds the type of way. I could understand if Triller didn't have the money and they were like a bankrupt company and couldn't make the payments. But they have the money.
They have it.
And obviously, when they bought Versus from Timbo and Swizzy, there had to be paperwork drafted up and a bunch of promises that were legalized.
Correct.
So if you had no intention of paying these niggas, why did you buy the shit from them?
And they saw how lucrative and they saw how much of a money-making thing it can be. That's why they reached out and a deal was made. A lot of people was a little upset about that because there were certain battles like the Cypress Hill and the Onyx one that the fans were cheated out of. Even Cypress Hill and Onyx, people had to buy the pay-per-view because they were online with boxing. It was a boxing thing, and they treated the verses between Cypress Hill and Onyx like a halftime show. And Cypress Hill was very, very mad about that. Be Real in particular was very vocal, as well as Onyx.
Unbelievable. And here's my thing. I'm pretty sure that the amount of revenue that they made from all these versus battles is a bigger dollar amount than what they paid Swizzy and Timbo for.
Absolutely. And guess what? Remember what I just said about the 18 million plus the 1 million? I can actually add more. According to them, they said that the payments that were due since January of this year, they never got them.
Wow.
And the new payment plan was agreed to pay that 18 million by March 17th of this year, plus the 1 million more per month for another 10 months. That's why now we got the average of the suit for the 28 million.
That's unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
Wow. That and again, they just playing cute because they have the money.
They have it. They just don't want to pay these guys.
And finally, in the last big bit of news for this week in hip hop, The Game came out with his new Drillmatic album, which has been fueled by an Eminem diss. Now, we've gone on record here. Well, not we. I'll take responsibility for this one. I've gone on record, and you could attest to this, and folks, it's in the archives. I've gone on record plenty of times and said that Game is a name caller, and for lack of a better term, a cocksucker. Have I not said that, QG?
You have stated that on this show. Yes, you have. In those words.
The Game has made a career off of calling people out by name, dissing 50, calling out Dr. Dre like he was still on Aftermath, even though he was on Geffen when his second album, Doctor's Advocate, came out. And now, for whatever reason, he's dissing Eminem. He's going on his daughter Haley's Instagram, leaving comments, and you see Haley clap back. She talking about her father so legendary that people got to stay relevant by calling his name.
Mm-hmm.
And now, granted, you know how I feel about Eminem as well.
Yes.
So for me, this is all entertainment. I'm popping popcorn because I hope Eminem responds, because when two niggas that I don't really care for go at it, the only winner is me. But
that's true.
Yeah, man, they could destroy each other. That'd be great. And I'll watch it from a distance and just laugh.
Have you heard the album? Have you heard Game's album?
Man, I'm not wasting my fucking time.
Well, I mean, just just for listening purpose, just to get something out of it, especially the direction that he's going. I mean, to add on it, the album is called Drillmatic, Heart versus Mind, and Hit Boy is on the productions, and it's like. The diss song is called The Black Slim Shady, and it leaked out. It leaked out before the album. Oh, so you didn't hear the diss track?
I haven't heard it. I heard it was 10 minutes long.
No, it's 10 minutes, and I'm thinking to myself, because when I saw it on YouTube before the album came out, I said, "No, this got to be fake." Because you know how you got some songs out there that's this long and it has verses from other records and it's not real. So I said, but when I clicked on it, and I said, "Oh my God, this is real." There's 31 songs on this album. Now, sticking to the diss track, he goes on to say that he doesn't bump Eminem in his car. You don't hear Eminem in the hood. He's been calling Eminem out for the longest time in all these interviews because I feel Game is thirsty for a battle to sell records. He, in the beginning, praised Eminem when he first got to Aftermath. And now when he's off of Aftermath, he want to call him out. He want to say all these things about him. When you worked with him on one song called We Ain't on the documentary, where you showed him nothing but love, and he's like, M killed me on my own song. And then he says in another interview that he had a better verse than M. Oh, now you have a better verse than M. And on the same song, he's quoting Eminem lyrics, imitating Eminem's style, and he uses the character Stan in the song. where he robbed Stan for the autographed starter cap, and I'm listening to it. I like Game. I'm a fan of his talent, but he's not rapping off talent anymore. He has this big chip on his shoulder, like you said, where he's calling out 50. He's calling out Eminem. He's name dropping all these different rappers. Like that's what he does. And I go on to say it, and I've said it on my social media, that if Stan was a rapper, it would be Game. And I mean that with all the utmost respect, because Game, you've been calling M out. M has not responded to anything that you said. None of your interviews, not the little subs, the jabs that you've thrown in the songs. So you come with an all-out 10-minute song. And still, a lot of people hate it. A lot of people criticize it. Some people like it, but what I've seen, the majority of people, they ain't with it. They don't like the song because it's like a desperate cry for help. It's like, please, please, please come battle me.
See, here's my take, right? I could understand if he's had previous interactions with the man and something went wrong, or Eminem opened his mouth and said something about the game. But for somebody who you've had no issue with, none whatsoever, for you to sit there and write a 10-minute diss song and record it, something is wrong, bro. That's cocksucking to the 1000th degree, bro.
He even dissed Dre. He dissed Dr. Dre on here, as well as 50.
He dissed Dre.
He dissed Dre. He said, I killed Dr. Dre in my basement last night. You know how in M's early songs where he kidnaps Dr. Dre and then he kills Dr. Dre as a joke. But Game follows the same thing. And then he was like, Left for Dead on the Doctor's Advocate. Dre never executive produced it. I just imagine it. Oh, here goes the magic tricks, candy shops, and the magic stick. You see how he uses those metaphors and those punchlines to just tie all that in there?
First off, he's talking about shit that happened 17 years ago. Let it go, my guy.
He can't.
And then on top of that, how is he dissing Dre when he says, oh, he didn't executive produce it? Of course he didn't fucking executive produce it, because you wasn't on fucking Aftermath or Interscope anymore, you fucking moron. You face-padded fuck.
Oh, man. Jeez. he even went on.
Well, this is getting me upset now because...
No, I hear you.
Bro, for all the listeners and the Rap Lab faithful, please, I'm begging you if you have the time, look up the Game's discography, whether you got to go to Spotify, Tidal, Apple Music, and look up his second album and listen to it, Doctor's Advocate. First of all, that album was on Geffen after the G-Unit fiasco, Interscope, and Aftermath, they dropped him. Whatever, right? He goes on, he signs to Geffen. He releases a second album. He calls it Doctor's Advocate. Dre ain't got nothing to do with you, my nigga. And then the worst part is Dre wanted to work with him, but because of label politics, he couldn't. So what are you mad at Dre? And haven't they worked together like 10 years ago or something?
They did work together. He had Dre on the Red album doing intros and a couple of segments. And then when the documentary 2 came out, Dre was also on it. So things was good. And when Game had a show, I don't
dissing Dre for.
It makes no sense. And then you remember when we talked about it on this show where he was like Kanye has done more for me than what Dre has done, which is ridiculous to me. You're just salty and bitter and mad at Dre because he looked up to Dre. And in fact, he went on to say on the diss song that 50 Cent is also writing rhymes for M. He said,
what the fuck?
Yeah. He says, but since Curtis always do, let him write the rhymes for you. And then he goes in the interview and says, well, 50 don't want to battle, so let me go after the guy who raps better than him. I want to battle, so let me get Eminem. So that's why he's blatantly calling people out because he's thirsty. He's dehydrated. He needs a controversy. He needs a beef to try to sell a record. And Game can rap. Game's talented. He's battle tested, but you don't have to do this. And I was very angry on previous shows where I said how can you discredit Eminem's hard work? Like Candyman, I know you're not a fan. I know you feel away, but the man has worked hard to get to where he is. At the time where he was getting the praise of being the number one rapper and selling records and just being so gifted and being so great, now all of a sudden he doesn't deserve to be mentioned among the elites. He doesn't deserve to get accolades and admiration. And I am sick and tired of hearing, well, you don't hear Eminem in the car or you don't hear Eminem in the hood. I don't need another person's car or I don't need a certain neighborhood to dictate to me what I want to listen to. I don't need it. And you hip hop fans don't need it either. You don't need it.
No. And the thing, and like you said, I'm not the biggest Eminem fan in the world, but and I get this is a common misconception about me on this show. People think because I say these things about Eminem and I say these things about Biggie, like I don't respect him. I respect Eminem for all he's accomplished. Listen, you put out a album that goes diamond. I can't criticize too much. My main beef with Eminem, I've never said the man is overrated. My main beef with him is what he did to the Tupac catalog. And I've always said that on this show. I've never once said that Eminem was a whack rapper or nothing. As far as oh, you don't hear him in the club or the car. Eminem don't make music for the club.
Yeah,
Eminem, and then the
he
other thing,
don't. He don't.
Eminem don't make music for the club. But when you compare the two record sales lifetime wise, Eminem spanks the game like 18 times.
You know what else he said on the song?
What?
He also he called out M on a lot of things. He's like, one thing you can never have is my mother effing black skin. He got all the blackest friends. He wants to be African. And then he goes to say, to see that I was in the white Rolls Royce with 5 9s when you was pretending to be the white Royce to 5 9.
Oh boy.
He and then you mentioned earlier about the Haley thing. Why does everybody feel the need to call out somebody that has nothing to do with nothing? That's his daughter. She has nothing to do with any of that. I hate when people take cheap shots like that below the belt just to try to get this person angry and get them out. You don't need to diss his daughter. And she came with the brilliant rebuttal, by the way. Shout out to Haley.
Oh man, it's very disheartening. Yeah, shout out to Haley because again, and what she said is true. And I hate to say this, and I haven't said this in a while, but when it comes to the game, ain't nobody checking for him outside of niggas in Compton.
Well, that's not true, man. I'll check for Game because I like Game. I like his music. I listen to him, but I'm gonna call it how I see it. The marketing
Bro,
ploy and the marketing tactic you're doing is just disgusting.
bro, I draw the line with Game in 2012, bro.
So you haven't heard any of the other records, huh?
I've heard them, but I'm not collecting them.
Well, here's the thing. You know, he said 23 years still ain't penetrating the culture. You are not top five in mine. Big or Pac eyes. No Andre, no Nas. Stop telling white lies. Sniff a little white line. This is the right time. I Suge Knight Vanilla Ice. I'm not Mr. Nice Guy.
Bro, I don't fuck with that man after Jesus peace, bro.
Yeah, man. Everything is an acquired taste, my man. But this here, like, do you think M will respond? It's been some time, but do you think he will? Do you think he should? What do you think?
Here's my opinion. I don't know if Emma's gonna respond, but the game don't want him to respond. Because I think if Eminem responds, we're gonna see something real ugly. And it's gonna make the game look real stupid. And not for nothing, but Eminem has hurt people in rap, bro.
M hasn't backed down from any challenges, and when you look at the resume of the people that he's gone against, like even in recent lights, like a Machine Gun Kelly or what have you, they're like, okay, you've been in these situations with these guys. Why don't you respond right away to the game? Why won't you go at the game? So it's up to Eminem, and he's built himself to a position where you don't have to respond to any of this stuff.
The only person that Emma's ever refused to battle was Royce, but that's for obvious reasons.
Yeah, because it was way too close to home. They spent too much time together, and they were able to settled what they settled. And the main thing behind that whole beef was him versus D12.
Game, you better be careful. You better be careful for what you wish for, because as much as I don't like Marshall, Marshall will rip you a new one. So you go right ahead and fucking go on that man daughter Instagram and talk your shit. You better JC you better chill, bro.
There you go again. Now whose name dropping, huh?
Hey, don't do
Who's
that.
name? You calling it by the government, man. I mean, that's what you're doing.
Don't do that. Listen, I don't respect. Bro, Game has, over the years has lost so much of my respect. I don't even want to call him by his rap name. That nigga JC man.
I hear you.
Before we wrap it up, QG, you know what we do every time on the news now. 60 seconds. Anything on your mind you want to talk to the people about?
For my 60 seconds, I want to talk about the virtual rapper FN Mecca, the first artificial intelligence artist signed to a major label. Candyman, this is unbelievable. Picture a white droid with green dreads and green eyes. Capitol Records signed a virtual rapper, an AI robot. Is this what the music has come to? You're signing artificial, fake robots? FN Mecca? What does FN Mecca sound like to you, Candyman, real quick?
Fucking Mecca.
So the deal was inked by the independent success on TikTok with the singles Moonwalking, Speed Demon, and Internet. Are you Michael Jackson all of a sudden? The rapper has garnered over 1 billion views and accrued 10 million followers on TikTok alone. Are you kidding me? And Capitol Records made it a deal? Come on.
Wouldn't it have just made more sense to just sign the rapper?
They signed an artificial rapper.
So who gets paid?
I don't know what's going on here. Who gets paid? And here's the thing. This artificial rapper is also going to be involved with Fortnite. And oh yeah, you know how kids love Fortnite. And he's going to be in a new commercial for Apple Music. Ryan Rudden, the executive vice president of Apple Music, made this deal. All they saw was the followers and the money. This has nothing to do with talent. Nothing. Like, what are you guys doing when there's hard rapping talent out there that work hard and don't have record deals and have to jump through hurdles and hoops to get anything nowadays? I just find it disgusting that this is where you're at right now. What's next? What you gonna sign next? You're gonna sign somebody from the metaverse or something like that? And the Gorillas do not count. The Gorillas is an actual band because you know the Gorillas with the cartoon and everything like that. That won a war. They're real. They're a real deal. This is something else. What we got to do, Katie, man? We got to go virtual nowadays to get some money.
You know what? The next time we all appear on camera, we should be in the form of virtual avatars. You know.
I support it. I'm with it.
We might have to call Rick and have him do some 3D imaging, bro.
Shout out to Rick and Maru for all the great graphics. But yeah, man, that's my 60 seconds. I just find it, well, it's longer than 60, but still, this is incredible. An AI robot gets a record deal at Capitol Records.
You know, that just goes to show, bro. This is the wave of the future.
I guess so, man.
I'm gonna take my 60 seconds. I'm in a bittersweet place with hip hop right now. Reason why I say that is in the archives. We did an episode way back when Rap Lab was a baby, and about streaming versus physical media, right? I.e., CDs, cassettes, vinyls, whatever. And I used to be proud at the fact for a very long time that certain albums you couldn't find on streaming services, like for example, De La Soul's discography, or a lot of unknown or older albums, right? But now, as time goes on, the streaming services are getting rights to these albums that were previously never available on these platforms. Just a couple weeks ago, Apple Music secured the rights to HNIC by Prodigy. That was an album that wasn't on streaming services for over a decade. And I used to take back that I had the CD. I used to smile about that shit, you know. So the fact that this man's album got on there, De La Soul's working on getting their albums on streaming services, makes me look at my CD collection and be like, damn, well, I don't got special gems no more that only I could hear, or that you'd have to go on YouTube to hear. And you know, YouTube is cumbersome because you close the app, the music stops playing. But I'm glad people, especially the younger people who came after me and UQG, I'm glad that they get a chance to hear this music without having to pay extraordinary amounts of money for it because the CDs are out of print. Some of these kids probably don't have anything that could play a CD, but you know, at the same time, it's like, damn, like I thought I was the exclusive gatekeeper of this fucking music, you know, or one of the. But
it's good.
Like I say, it's bittersweet because you know the youngins, they get educated, but you know, I feel like it devalues my collection. And truth be told, I've been thinking about selling my collection lately.
Really?
Yeah, because all the music is available stream-wise. So, I mean, you know, like outside of my No Limit stuff, because still half of No Limit's catalog is not on there. But you know, no limited cash money I'd never get rid of. But man, I just look at my album collection. I'm like, damn, like, you know, none of this shit is exclusive to me anymore. But like I said, it's just a bittersweet personal feeling. But I'm sure I'll get over it in time. But with that being said, this is another episode of the Rap Lab podcast. Stay tuned to our social media because next week's topic, we want y'all to write in raplabpod@gmail.com, raplabpod on Instagram and Twitter. And again, for those of you Rev Barber MC fans, Rev will be back next week. So
yep, shout out to the Rev. We'll be back.
Yep. So this is Rap Lab, and we out.
The Rap Lab, 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 the Rap Lab. Let's go. The Rap Lab, the Rap Lab, the Rap Lab. Come see what we cooking up at. The Rap Lab, the Rap Lab, the Rap Lab. Ball for ball, we hooking up with TOQG, Rev Barber MC, ALFRE to the D on that MIC, A to Z. We be the flyers. Hip hop sound broke down to a science. It's the Rap Lab, the Rap Lab, the Rap Lab. Come see what we cooking up at. The Rap Lab, the Rap Lab, the Rap Lab.